All righty. Welcome back to episode 11 of the Apps and Asphalt podcast. We have with us the wonderful Miss Chantea. Chantea is our head of operations for National Pavement Partners. So you got your first set of microphone time, last week, 2 weeks ago?
Yep, 2 weeks ago.
Doing the awards. How's it feel?
It feels like I need to get used to it a little more.
Yeah.
But I will get there.
It's definitely weird when you do it.
Yeah.
You got to embrace talking to nobody is kind of really how it is.
Just talking in thin air.
Yeah. But I mean, it's nice that are able to have a conversation. So Chantea's been a huge part of our success. She's got these guys, our crew's working hard or extremely organized, very diligent in what she does, and she is able to manage about 100 things at once. So how'd you get tied up into NPP and this crazy place?
This industry. Well, I was doing HR for 7 years actually at a stone quarry, so not too far off from what you see in the construction industry. My job there started to get a little more complacent, and I felt like I didn't really have much room to grow anymore. So Zach had been asking, hey, do you want to come here? I'd love to have you. So at that point, it was 2021. I finally made the decision to try something new after 7 years of doing what I was doing.
You were there for 7 years?
Yes, sir.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's kind of still the construction space.
Yeah, we had a different compliances. We were MSHA, basically coordinated to them. And so here it's OSHA and just a whole different change of pace. So
Yeah.
I
totally get it.
And then I got sucked into the operations from there. And now I've handed HR off to somebody else that I can train and basically put another me, essentially that's really what I'm doing with her. So
Yeah.
Well, I saw what she did with the stone quarry that she was at, and I was like, wow, she really whipped it into shape. HR was like a facet of what she was doing, but really it was like overall day-to-day management of a lot of different things too. So even though HR was a title, there was a lot more that was into it. So that's why I felt like she would be a good fit for where we were.
Yep.
Because everyone wears so many different hats and we run at such a fast pace. I was like, man, she'd probably be a really good fit for us.
she can keep up with the boys.
Right?
That's what
Keep
happens
up
when
with
you
the
have
boys,
brothers.
Right? Keep up with the boys and run them. So speaking of, how is working, being a woman, especially an operational role? You see a lot of times that position is dominated by men and men in construction primarily. But to be running and organizing these crews like you do, how's that been for you?
That was a little bit intimidating coming here because I like to know what I'm talking about and I try very hard to educate myself. So not having the complete knowledge of the industry was hard. But this year around, I was actually very surprised on how much I retained and understood now. And so being out there talking with other men in the industry, they're more like, oh, so you're not just looks, you actually know what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
So the paycheck you're getting is not because Zach thinks you're good looking or anything crazy, which I've been told that. I was at a Sealmaster event and one of the guys basically said, he's like, so you are the one now who's doing their operations. I could see why. And I'm like, no, my stuff speaks for me basically. I'm delivering the results. So it's right now I feel like I'm in a place where I can actually just continue to move forward with them. They know me, they're familiarized with me, and so it's not so scary anymore.
What would you say was the hardest part about, the transition period of getting to this point now to where you have the respect of other people in the industry, you have the respect from our crews, our team? What would you say was kind of the hardest part of that whole transition?
Balancing time. I mean, it's a lot of things working around you at once. And so as I'm holding on to certain parts of the business and still trying to maintain that aspect of it, it was just literally trying to make that time, honestly, to keep up. So I did it. Thank you, God.
Yeah,
Amen.
Yeah, you've done it. Balancing time, I feel like, is such a weird stigma that has gotten brought up over the last few years between motivational speakers to people who are like on this life kick and, like the balance of time and making sure that life is balanced. And I'll be honest with you, if you're doing great things in this world, like I personally feel like balance is not a thing.
No, there is no balance.
It's very unbalanced a majority of the time. But if you want to make big waves, I feel like that's what happens is you skip out on balance at times. And sometimes you're like feeding way over here and sometimes you're feeding way over there. But, you've been able to succeed and run at a really incredible pace, like he said. And so hats off to you. I knew you could do it.
Thank you.
You've got the tough skin for it.
Well, it was actually hard too having Kaime leave, although it wasn't like a huge impact on operations as a whole. It was still like that extra hand. And so having like that last period of time, knowing that we were going to slow down, obviously it was just me at that time. So what I realized, though, putting myself in that sort of a position was that I was able to catch where we really do need the help and like thinking about an overhead standpoint and, what can I delegate to other people internally that are maybe doing some of this already? Do we really need, how many people in operations at this point now? And as the company's growing, what still does that look like moving forward? Because at some point we're going to want to go into Arizona. So yes, you're right. Time management does have its own kick because I think our heads are always all over the place with different stuff. Right?
Yeah, we really are. It's hard to stay narrow in that focus. Zach and I talked about like we grew so fast these like probably 3 years ago that it became like chaotic and we got everything done. Fortunately, we were able to keep up with the pace, but it became unorganized and chaotic. And so you've been huge in helping us kind of unravel that.
Thank you.
The biggest thing we've seen this year, even, we've made definite improvements, but I think when we started and looked at and created the organizational hierarchy, we were seeing that, our on-site guys, laborers were calling all the way up to you. Foremen were calling all the way up to you. Superintendents were talking to you. And then you had estimators talking to you.
Yep.
Like,
Along with the clients.
The amount of phone calls and
Text.
and texts and stuff that you get on a daily basis is pretty hard to keep up with.
Yeah.
So what are you thinking, like going into this next year that we've been talking about? What do you think is going to help kind of change and clarify that? You talk about delegating a lot. It's going to help you.
I feel that for me personally, I am really good at the organizational piece. So internally, I will keep my hands on scheduling and job costing because that's one part of it. The other part too is you're right, it's the field. And so what that looks like is our guys are actually becoming leaders, as time is progressing. And so they still need that extra cushion or training from somebody. And since I am only one person, my thought was to implement a superintendent that would oversee, those guys and give them that direct attention and help them where they were lacking, rather it be, trying to project manage a job and look at the next one ahead of time as well. Or, we had a machine breakdown. I mean, it's nonstop. So somebody else has to be able to like be a safety net is the way I felt. And then on top of that, making sure they're understanding, the supers are understanding why these certain pieces are important, really.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. And the paving industry, there's a lot of logistics that go into it, period. Talk about like having the ducks in a row. It's a very like dependent industry, I guess, for a job to be successful.
It is. There's a lot that goes into it, start to finish, because the finishing piece, I think, is our big goal now, and that's to solidify that process down to the, customer coming and saying, holy cow, everything that I expected and more. So that my goal on the board is to say every job that we successfully did without having any go-backs, any issues, I'm going to continue to track that. And so at some point, rewarding them back for constantly making sure that they were leaving it nicer than they found it.
Yeah.
Love that.
How do you set up your superintendents and foremen for success? I know you're doing a lot of training with them.
I think perspective has a huge piece for employees. And so you got to think in terms of laborers and like where they come from, their mentalities. So for them, it's, you know, an hourly thing that they're doing, but then we implement SOS. So now we have a new, you know, something to add. Then at that same time, I implemented the shark clock to track time and job costs properly. With that, what I noticed was some pushback because it's a growing pain again. But at the same time, I'm at the belief of, you know, if you want to stay a part of the team and you want to grow together, we'll do that together. If this is not no longer for you, then I understand that too, because I don't want to keep people here who don't want to be here. So going back to that, I feel like the process always is for me to make sure and ensure that they understand what they're doing, you know, and why. The bigger piece is why. Why is it important to get to the site on time? Why is it important not to go over on material? Why is it important to just, you know, check around you, making sure asphalt's not going all over the place, right? Like, those are my bigger pieces now, is making sure. And then the supers being accountable to their foreman in the same way. So where the foremans may have missed something, that super needs to be able to pick that up and say, okay, hey, I got you on this, so I'll take care of it.
Yeah.
My field super, again, will just be over making sure the paperwork comes in correctly, the shop's where it needs to be with our equipment, they're tracking rentals, they're doing the things that I wish I had more hands to do.
100%.
And it's getting better. I mean,
Yeah.
the being able to train people, delegate, it's training people who aren't used to being in leadership positions back into being leaders themselves. And so it's a process. It does take time, but I think, you know, you've gotten these guys into a really good routine and things are moving along good and they're moving along well. So
For sure.
just the training piece.
All
It
of our
is.
all of our superintendents have started on the crews. Now they're in the leadership positions, and that's the hardest part. Is these guys have just been work all their life, and they get stuff done. But when you step into a leadership role, it's no longer about working the hardest.
Smartest, and that's how you
Smartest.
lead your guys. And so what I explained to them is like, hey, this is something they're trying to build to continue to, you know, flourish. So basically from my standpoint is, you know, if you're happy with your job, like the next step for a foreman would be to become a super. And for the supers, you know, maybe you wanted to actually do estimating and you're finding you're better at other items, you know. I do think, like, for me, I'm a very big testing person, if you will. So Nettie was the first one that started into that position right from the crew. And what I saw in him was the lack of confidence sometimes, and where he was like, I think I belong in the crew. Like, no, just stick with it. So now where he's at, you know, doing it for good 2 seasons, you can tell he's getting it down and just running with it now. So that's where I'm at with our guys, is just patience, you know, patience and understanding that if they are being able to get the right tools from us, they should be able to do their jobs properly.
Yep.
But because we are growing at such a fast pace, it was hard to see those gaps that we needed to fill.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a big believer that you should always try to look to hire within before searching outside, because I was that guy for a long time that was like, man, I just want that opportunity. I just want that chance. And I didn't get it, you know, at times. And so knowing that there's probably people that want more for themselves that just maybe need a push, I think like that's always the first box to look at. Not that it's always going to be the best fit, but if we realize that it's not and some people just don't want that leadership aspect, that's fine. That's, you know, they can be a good second hand to that leader.
Exactly.
But giving them the opportunity to try, I think is what they deserve and what I would have wanted,
Yeah.
you know.
And instilling confidence in them is huge too.
Yep.
You know, if they feel like they're out there with nobody basically trying to do things on their own, their confidence goes down. They want to go back to the crew, so they revert. And that's something else I see, right? But when we come into this season now, that's why I want to implement more of, rewarding to the good. Like, you guys left this good job solid, okay? Here's some more gift cards, because then the super too feels that reward, and therefore he's like, okay, we're doing good. But the constant piece that they they take the most, and that's anybody, is criticism. That's the
Yeah.
piece that typically sticks with you. So it kind of overthrows like all the good that was there. And that's where I say balancing that piece for me is a huge part, so that they see the good as well.
You gotta give them a shit sandwich. You
No,
give 'em
not
the
a shit
bun,
sandwich.
And you put some mayo on there, and then you put some
mustard.
lettuce, some mustard, put the shit in the middle, and then another bun. So a little bit of good, a little more good, some shit, and then you finish with some good.
Oh, wow. That's a
sandwich.
Zach thought for sure.
Yeah.
But hey,
I don't know where you came up with that.
Yeah,
one.
me-
You know, man, I'm a very
Some random
special individual,
thing.
man. Things just
a shit sandwich. So you're telling me I'm feeding our guys shit sandwiches now?
No, I'm not. You know, I think that goes with anything. Like when you have the hard conversations, you're given like reconstructive criticism. You want to be able to, you need to tell them what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, and then how they can improve and what they have to look forward to.
Exactly.
Helps build like the momentum, so it's not so much of, shit.
Why did this happen? How did this happen? And that's part of it, is the estimators see certain, and that's why it's huge for our guys and estimators too to spend more time together, because once they get to know them more, how they see their projects, I feel they become kind of understanding on how things should look or where they need to improve to, because every estimator's different. And so the feedback from one can be so good from, to a crew, and then the other one's like, no, you guys need to improve on this and that. And they're thinking like, which is it? Am I doing poorly? I feel like I'm doing good because so-and-so says so. So yeah.
It's a big, especially our crews, it's a big pride thing for these guys. So if you learn, that's why the criticism kind of cuts them so deep, is because they're very prideful in the work they put out. Most of them are. I won't say everyone we've hired has been like, most of them, or a lot of them have been here to just get a check and get their hours in and all that. But learning to constructively improve and show them why. They could do a great paving job. The paving could be spotless, but if they leave Gatorades and Dorito bags all over the place, and one guy stepped in the tack, then he goes
Tracked it
and
on the
tracks it right in
concrete.
front of the entrance on the white concrete, that's what the customer is going to notice the most. And so that's stuff that we critique on, so that way they have a better understanding of what the customer actually cares
It's
about.
the details that matter the most. And so I think
Yes, it
that
does.
on my end, part of that was seeing it. It's because we run at such a fast pace that there was a lot for me to take in on that, which is I'm trying to hit goals, right? Revenue goals. Amongst that, these guys are running and going and doing. And so for me personally, I'm going to take that step back, try to figure out how to get the safety net there for them. So from top to bottom, like they're able to run successfully. And as far as going back to what you said on, some guys are here for a paycheck. My goal always, and something I did at Arkins, was I started to basically weed those people out. Why? Because if you want a strong team as you're growing, you will start to see those weaknesses, and it's not to settle, but to bring the people in who really want to give what this company deserves. So.
And this company, I really appreciate you saying that. It's like we all put our ego aside at the door, like myself included. There's times where you hear stuff that you don't want to hear. We've had some very tough conversations, but the ego has to go away in here, because with ego is pride, and with pride is, well, it says in the Bible, like that pride is not good. It's not.
That's why the
something
devil's a fallen angel.
Exactly. And so, we need to continue to carve on people too. And, some people may have that in them, but we need to continue to carve on them and let them know, like, hey, you're not the only one that's getting constructive criticism. Like, I just gave a whole shit sandwich to Zach the other day. You're like,
We grow and learn from each other. It comes from
like,
ways. No, I agree. I tell them the same. I said, hey, I follow those same guidelines. I agree with you. Like we do. We hold each other accountable.
Exactly. Tell them, hey, the ego is not your amigo.
That is actually a good one, so I will try that one now. I will take that one from your book. The others you can keep.
Got it.
I don't know about the others. No, I agree. I think that's a good thing. And I think coming from an owner too, that's huge. Like, you got to realize at the same time, these guys look up to you 100%, whether it's what you're doing on social media or how you're doing things in the background period. Like, you are probably the biggest person they want to hear how well they're doing from. So where the pride and the ego come into play, I mean, that's like a man talk in itself. That's like, hey, this is how this looks. And then you, like I said, you'll find the guys who really have that heart and want to engage and grow. And you'll also see the ones who are just like, yeah, whatever, which is okay. Like I said, I think to each their own. It's just they're not going after the same goals we are.
Right. Right. Yep. Absolutely.
So time to spice it up.
How much time do we got left? Because I think it's like 5
He's
minutes.
like, it's getting late.
Your boy's in the middle to be a mediator.
He's a mediator.
Little past, Chantea and Zach actually dated in the past. Like early on when you started that paving company, like right around that time, right?
Yeah, we were about 2 years in at that point.
Holy smokes. So, big question. What is it like working with your ex?
Well, hopefully he could plug his ears. Not just kidding. It's funny because actually I get a lot of that from even other contractors we do business with or just my friends in general. I think realistically where it comes is the place of love. Like, I will always love and care for Zach as a person, period. So when he was kind of offering me this job, I had to first pray on it, think about it, because it was such an awkward place to be mentally. And so what I felt there was to try this, to see, because these difficulties like that we experience in the workplace, even like butting heads, or we catch ourselves going into these weird arguments where we're like, wait, we work together. It's growth on our end, and I don't think this growth would be possible without having us working together. So the way that I see it is a growth factor for us. Business is business always, is in my mind, period. So when he offered it, I was like, okay, let's try this. And then there was, like I said, butting heads at first. As we're learning, we're just growing, though, really.
That's the hard part, is like, okay, is this person coming at me from like a certain way, or are they coming at me from like a valid point? And you know what? And I think like it's taken a lot of like reflection on probably both of our ends at times to be like, okay, obviously like there's care. We're both on the same team. It's towards the same goal. So let's take out the perspective of I used to date this person and we would butt heads. There, a lot of it was like, it was not seeing eye to eye on certain things. But when it comes to business, like, I know she means well. And that was the biggest thing. I'm like, this girl is a top performer. She can bust ass and get some stuff done. And I feel like she would be a great asset to our team. And in turn, like, I think we can offer her a really good position for her and her daughter as well. You know, because, like, I really care about her daughter still. I think it takes a level of maturity for sure, and I think it's been good. Like, it's been a good personal growth and development thing too. It's
100%. I think you guys honestly had to probably do like a little reset of putting aside your past from where your relationship is now and moving forward.
Yep.
Probably because honestly, I know how it was. Like, you got thrown in when it was
Crazy
and busy, and I guarantee it wasn't anything like too formal. Like, hey, guy, you guys probably had the conversation before. Like, okay, here's
luck.
the new expectations. Here's how we're going to talk to each other. Here's our new relationship.
Here's our boundaries. Here's some things we need to keep in mind. We did dive in, just let's see how it goes. And again, it's something then you look back and you reflect and you take stuff from. So each year, as him and I have now done business together for the last 2, I feel that I have also realized a lot in myself, like I said, because he knows me so well. He's able to call those things out. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think it's that boundary, like he said, of we're doing business together. Let's not take our comments personal to each other, or we both want the same things successfully. So how do we approach each other without steering each other up?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then there's other people in my life that I'll probably meet that are like Zach, though, that I will take this from and say, oh, I know how to handle this.
Yeah.
This is the easy one.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, at the end of the day, it's been like, people probably think it's crazy, but it's really not crazy when you're in it, because like I think her and I both know, like there's big things to get accomplished. We're trying to all make waves for generations to come and like blaze a trail. And I think like we all know, like, okay, this is a good solid team. You know, this is an all-star team. Now it's a matter of like, with all-stars, how does everybody work together and pass the ball and
Having confidence in each other
Yeah.
too at the same time, because now he's the owner, he's my boss. Like, I had to have the confidence that he wasn't just going to fire me for whatever reasons, and that in itself was already.
come
well, I know, but still, I mean, there was that thought. Okay,
Good thing we got a mediator.
right in the middle.
But
I'm not like that.
no, I mean, in all reality, it's a little bit different. It's a little, but we got through the hard parts, I feel. And absolutely, the bigger goal's always out there. And I think this transition and move has helped me grow all around, so professionally and personally, to be honest.
Yeah, which is awesome. You're not, I mean, it's pushing you to being uncomfortable, which is great. Like early on, wasn't that right when you were starting one of your other companies? Because I remember you telling me, like, man, Chantea's been with me, like, since the early days, like the beginning. Like,
Dude, I remember literally like her sitting in the kitchen with me, and like we're going through building the business plan and like knocking all that stuff out. Along with that, I'm like started hiring employees. She's already running HR over at Arkins at the time, and like she's running payroll for me in the evenings and like helping out with a lot of different things. So she understood the industry from my point of view and what I was giving, which was like a higher executive level to begin with. So she was getting into, that's why I was like, man, this would probably be a really good fit for her with a lot of room to grow, because I saw what she had done and I knew what she knew. And I was like, okay, like a year of experience, like she's probably going to get this thing and like make it her own, because that's the type of woman. She's just straight boss. So she did, and that's perfect, because that's what we needed on that side of the company as well too. So now there's a lot of building and developing that she gets to do, and you know, really take it and run with it.
Yeah.
Very well said, actually. I 100% agree with him. I remember thinking back to Zach's mindset in understanding business and our conversations that we would have. That was intriguing in itself. It's like, I want to be around that kind of mindset again, the one that challenges, but the one that also opens your mind up to other, items, and just those sort of conversations are the best. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Especially if that's something you want to go towards, then you almost get attracted to it. Like,
Yep.
now I only like talking about, business and stuff like that, really, with people who are in the same boat, not necessarily things of the past.
Yeah.
I want to go back to like what we were talking about with like having relationships in work and being able to kind of manage that. It's not necessarily relationships. Zach and I are in a relationship, not a fruity one or anything, but
Yeah. I'm glad you put that out there. I think they would have thought that. That
We
wedding
are in
ring
a
doesn't say
relationship, like we'll
anything.
go shoot guns together, have a beer,
Go to church.
Yeah,
church,
go
yeah.
But like we've always, why we have been successful with our relationship or partnership from when I was an employee now to partner with you, is because we were still able to hang out and talk about work, but really talk about like life and get to know each other on like a personal level. But also when it came time to sit down and go to work, like it's been all business. We know how to clearly separate business from play, so to speak. And I think, a lot of companies they have a hard time of saying, the owner should always be like away and should be kind of not in the personal stuff with people. And we're kind of like a different approach to where we truly feel like a family. Like
It's a more personable relationship.
Exactly. And I think it goes a long ways, but having those boundaries of like, hey, when we're here at the office, we're here to get some shit done.
Yeah. Yep.
We remind each other of it whenever we're like, going off into a not conversation that doesn't need to be had. It's like, hey, we're busy. Let's focus, right?
Somebody's like, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've seen even, you and Ariana have developed a pretty good friendship even outside of work. The best thing, and you touched on it, is like, I think personally you can build friendships from business, but I don't know that you can always bring friendships into business. And it's not that you and I didn't have a friendship, but there was a very clear business expectation up front. It wasn't like, you and I have, you were living your own life, I was living my own life, and then it was me approaching you about business, not, friendship, hanging out. So, like,
The background wasn't like, it was
background
very,
has been very clear, and so when you can establish those ground rules up front, I think it adds for a more successful relationship in business endeavors together than if you were to intermingle the two. I've done it and it's been unsuccessful on multiple different levels, unfortunately, because there are people that I do miss that I wish I had in my life as friends, but unfortunately the way I conduct business when I'm in business is like, we're here to shoot straight. Like we're hitting bullseyes, and like there is no excuses. And I do expect as close to perfect as possible. And when other people are feeling the pressure, they take it personally. It's not a personal thing. It's just this is the standard. Period.
this is the industry
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
That's what I'd say.
Yeah, right. And I think we recently kind of made that decision, that cutoff.
You had to check me.
I was like, I don't know. I mean, we were talking about bringing other people in that we knew, which is that's the easiest way, especially when starting a business, is bringing people in from proximity.
Yeah.
Because who can help?
You trust them too, to a certain degree as well. So you feel like, hey, this will work. I personally know. I say no. I think it's hard. I mean, this is my first experience working with somebody of some sort of relationship. So it is because you're the way you talk to each other. Again, if you have that personal relationship, it's hard to then distinguish, okay, business talk, business. And it's just the way that you say things too, right?
Yep.
It's the way. And so that's something I'm learning with Zach, is it's the way that I'm saying things sometimes to him may feel personal, whereas I really am coming from a business sense, but he's not seeing it that way because of the way I'm addressing things.
Yep.
So
It takes an understanding from both sides, the want to understand the other person and vice versa.
Yep.
And
I've heard in my mastermind group, there's a couple people who put up like partnership stories. And I've heard like of friends going into business together, and then they have to, like this one guy had to fork out like $300,000 because his friend, they were doing good for like 6 months, and then his friend started using drugs and stole their clients, and so that's why it's easier to leave the mess aside and just say, hey, you know what? I just don't want to put our friendship in jeopardy if something happens, because when it's good, but when it's bad, it's even more than just firing somebody. It gets more personal, like you said, and
exactly. No, 100%.
I had to do the same thing with another friend outside of business, like outside of NPP, probably a month ago, and I think he's probably still a little torqued off at me. But here's the thing. I know that my level of like tolerance is low, number one. Number two, the expectation is high, and I don't want to have that friction at some point. So I think like he will eventually probably just understand that and probably thank me for it later. And that way we can have those very clear boundaries set up front for other people. And then that would be my advice. But I know people have done it and they've been successful at it. I personally haven't had great success with it.
And then when you see it like that too, you got to think in terms as well of, is it the same industry? Does it bring the same stress? Does it the same, you know what I mean? In other places of business, I find if it's a more, chill, lax kind of deal, then great. There's not so much tension already building. Like you probably could hire a friend and that would be okay. But in this industry especially, there is not a lot that you can afford to fork out on those sort of things because it's just go, go, go.
Yep.
it is too fast paced, and there's little room for error to where like small mistakes get turned into big problems pretty quickly.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
For
pretty
sure.
easily. What's some things you're really excited about going into 2023? Well, we're already in it, but starting the year fresh. What's some things you're excited personally and professionally?
So professionally, I told Ariana we got a Q1 goal of beating the revenue for our slow months. So the first quarter is beat the revenue each month as much as we possibly can with the weather. That's really hitting me hard lately. But that's that. And outside of that, it truthfully is building up our processes, again, with the crews, just really getting in touch with these guys, getting them in training on stuff prior to the season even really beginning so that they feel comfortable, they understand, they know, and I'm able to do my side pretty easily as well. So I guess what I'd say is more organization really and more training to impact that part.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. And a little SOS plug. But I think it's good for people to know how operations use it because we've talked with a couple clients and they only use it for sales. How, as the operations manager, do you use SpotOnSite and do the crews use SpotOnSite?
Yes. So initially with SpotOnSite, my idea was to be able to utilize it in the sense for the customer that they would, take the pictures that corresponded to the problem areas that we use it for. So when the estimators have, this area and then they go ahead and pin a picture to match that, my thought was we're just completing this puzzle. So you guys go ahead and take a picture of that area so that the customer then can see, oh, they hit every spot. Like, cool, sign, here's the check, done. It's just a very thorough, transparent process. But again, going back, I have to remember that that was a new thing for them to utilize technology. These guys were doing pen and paper when I got here. Now they're using their iPads. They're using the maps to help them, communicate back to me and to make sure, hey, do you see this? We just correspond with each other a lot.
Yeah.
So it's been really helpful on that end. And I think just as a whole, trying to get them to see the bigger picture still, hey, we got to make it better than we found it. Does that picture look better than the one that was already there?
Yeah. That's a great way to,
Yeah, that is good. And I like what you had mentioned as well about having the guys go around the perimeter with SpotOnSite and like just filming everything so they have an idea. Like a lot of times you'll get the client that's like, hey, you hit this or you guys left this. And it's like, no, that stuff was that way beforehand. And so having that to be able to cover our crew's butt and avoid a potential warranty trip or something has been great as well. So appreciate you implementing that.
Thank you. And I think outside of that, though, as well as I experienced other projects being done around us doing work at other places. So like we had landscapers at one time, or when I was up in Grand Junction, they had stuff going on up there too. And they're like, oh no, that trash is theirs. So that's exactly it. Wherever we're working to save ourselves, we should always make sure like we have pictures of all the area.
CYA, cover your ass. Yep.
SOS, go, go, go.
Yeah.
Woo.
Sponsored by
Hurry up
Chantea.
before I raise
You're
the
welcome.
price.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. What would you say, kind of our follow question for you, what would you say would be your number one piece of advice for a woman in construction trying to get a leadership role?
To not feel discouraged against, men who've been doing this forever. I think it really does come down to just going in and experiencing it for yourself, learning the industry for yourself. So with Ariana, she's never been in construction before. She's literally shadowing me constantly, but also listening to the people around you who have done it forever. They will teach you. These estimators taught me everything I know. Also go to the projects and watch the process. Like you'll literally put it all together in your head. I would have never known what full depth removal was until I watched it happen. So It is that. It's a little bit of everything.
Okay.
Yeah, it's awesome.
advice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Because we're in a world now where women are extremely empowered and I love it. But we could see a whole shift within the workspace, especially within the construction industry, because I think women, number one, men would probably rather see women on the job site a little bit more than just seeing men all day. I'll be honest with
Zach, that's Zach's comment there.
I'm going to be honest.
I don't know about everybody else. They might just be thinking about work.
But number
hey.
two, they come with a different perspective, a different tolerance of patience a lot of times that men don't always carry with them. I mean, extremely alpha is coming with, it has to be done this way, and there's very little understanding at times. But women have been able to help this organization. I mean, it's not just you. We've got a handful of great women within our organization, and they're all leaders. And so I'm learning from them, and because they've given me grace at times. And so I appreciate that.
And our guys do too. I think when I started here, they were like, whoa, how are you? What are you doing here? Like, it's a different kind of experience for them to be that person that's understanding, whereas like they're always working with men. So men are like, go, 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 do. Well, when a woman comes and she's like, hey, let's take a step back. Like, are you okay? What's going on? Is there something deeper? That's just us, our emotional side. And so when they see that, it's like, oh, all right, cool. I have somebody who cares, and also people who, like Zach, who can teach me more in business, but they have that part too. So you're right.
I would have never thought about that. The natural, emotional, nurturing kind of side of that.
I saw
like,
it. They were like,
I don't give a
"What?"
damn.
Yeah.
Rub some dirt on it and get back out there.
I've been told, they're like, you're just so nice. And I'm like, I'm just trying to keep the peace with everybody around
Right.
here. We don't need to be mad at each
But
other.
at the same time, like, I've also seen her pull grown-ass men into the office, and like, I mean, you and I heard one of them, like, as he was leaving, he didn't know that Hayden and I were working in here, and he's like leaving your office, and he's walking out, and he's like, just looking at his phone, walking. He's like, what did he say?
He goes, fuck me. Just walks out.
Oh, like, dang, he must have just got his ass ruined.
I mean, that's the thing. I hold them accountable, and I expect more when I'm a woman being able to do these things. That I'm like, you're telling me you couldn't have gone and get a screwdriver and done this real quick? Like, I will literally get out and do these things that I'm like, literally takes 2 seconds. Guys.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Exposing the laziness.
There you go, fellas. There you go.
Yep.
Go hire yourself a boss-ass woman.
Yep, absolutely. It can make a huge difference. This has been great. I think, obviously we covered a lot, but especially your role here and how much of a huge part of success you are. You don't get the spotlight necessarily, but really the company does revolve around you. So we're very appreciative of you, and
That's all God. I give the credit to him.
Amen.
Like I say all day long, I tell Tanya, she's like, I'm so glad I have you, and you're braided. How do you do all this? I'm like, that's all the big man, because I don't know how I do it. So Thank you guys all around too for opportunity, and you for always being a great mediator and helping hold those pieces together.
try to be the glue.
Yes.
But this was awesome. So
I was.
So we all high five each other now.
Okay.
Thanks, guys. Woo!
Air
Good
five.
job.
All right. Episode 11, the Apps and Asphalt podcast, had a wonderful Miss Chantea. Thank you again for coming out. Stay tuned for next week, and hopefully we're up to 150 you guys checking us out now.
Oh, yeah. We're on Spotify.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
We're on Apple. We're on YouTube.
Yep. So you guys want to listen to us on the airplane or
Very nice.
wherever we're out there.
So you can go on the
Yes.
podcast app then through your Apple, and it's already up there on there.
We're
Just
on there,
hit
yep.
Subscribe.
Yep.
Got
So
it.
subscribe to us, rate us, review us, like us, tag us, Apps and Asphalt. Thank you.
Add
guys.
us.
Add us.
Right.
Bye.
There you go. Thanks, guys.